Hey everyone, welcome to the rollout. I am Lindsay Rousseau.
And I'm Genevieve Marie. Hello and welcome.
We're gonna do a little different episode today. Well, I don't know if it's that different, but we actually haven't talked theme parks at all on this show yet.
No, we haven't.
We've talked, we did our, a couple Disney episodes where the theme parks came up, but not, when we were talking to Isaac and Caitlin a couple months ago, because they both work there, but we didn't really go into depth. So we thought we'd take today to kind of dive into some thoughts that we have about Galaxy's Edge, Avengers Campus, Wizarding World. Because we definitely have some thoughts now that, they've been out for a couple years. Obviously, the pandemic has, changed how we experience theme parks a little bit. But even before the pandemic, we had some thoughts. So yeah, let's just dive in. Where do we want to start, Genevieve?
Okay, so this wild idea came up because of the fact that Lindsay and I have noticed that we have seen that there is a different type of theme park experience being offered to us now with the start. And it all started with the Wizarding World of, Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And
at Universal Studios. Yeah.
And Disney does what Disney does. They take something, they see something that they like that's not theirs. And they take it, and the formula is to take the idea that is great and make it better.
Profitable.
Yeah. And right. They take something that is profitable and marketable, and the idea is to put the Disney spin and the label on it and to also try and make it better. And their version of trying to make it better was Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which had a very rocky start.
It did.
And
it was delayed a lot.
It was delayed a lot.
I live in Southern California. We were seeing the news pretty regularly. It kept missing its deadlines for when it was going to open.
I would say it was kind of like watching the delays of Cyberpunk 2077.
and then the glitches
then once it did open, Lindsay, we saw the cracks.
Yeah.
And there were many.
Right. First of all, the biggest ride wasn't even ready. They decided to open the park before Rise of the Resistance was done, by 2 years. Because Rise of the Resistance opened right before we had the shutdown back in 2020 from COVID. So they opened it without their biggest ride being ready.
And
lines were out of control.
The lines were out of control. When you had the opening for the press and for VIP guests, which is an entirely separate thing from having it open to the public, a lot of things just were not available. It wasn't the grand opening that they were expecting to have. One of the reasons for that was because that they really were just trying to get it open without Rise of Resistance, which was their e-ticket ride. At Disney, they have different tier levels to their rides, and the big ones, what would be the equivalent of a AAA game, is what they call an e-ticket ride. And an example of that would be Indiana Jones, Guardians of the Galaxy, the larger rides. And so they were opening it up with their smaller tier ride, which the whole park is opening up with only 2 rides. So they only had one of the 2, Smugglers Run, open up before it. And so everybody was kind of a little disappointed because you were supposed to get this ride that has all of this different technology. It has the magnetic track on the floor so that you can't see the track. it's supposed to have, integrate like LED screen technology, and
right.
it's supposed to have all of these cool
and it's
things.
got the really elaborate animatronics now, and that are
But
far beyond what we've had. I mean, the ride, once it opened, the ride is quite amazing. Like, it is breathtaking when it's working.
But what you ended up getting actually was Smugglers Run, which was just a rehash of Mission to Mars, which was an old Disney ride that I believe they had it in Epcot Center, and then they shut that down. But they revamped it. They took the skeleton of that ride and then made Smugglers Run out of it. And so when people got onto Smugglers Run, they're like,
this seems familiar.
Have we not done this ride before? Like,
right.
And also Disney, I want to say I feel bad, but I don't know. The Schadenfreude of it all is just kind of fun.
Right.
Because Rise of the Resistance got basically destroyed in an accident during its construction. So it was about to open.
Right.
And there was a big accident that happened as far as the construction of the ride. And they had to basically push the opening back an entire year. More so with, the panoramic going on.
Right, exactly.
And what you ended up having was a land where there was very little to do, because a lot of it was pay to play, which means, it was basically a giant gotcha game.
Well, it's definitely, and again, the land itself is amazing. The sound design that went into
beautiful.
The production design, like, it's gorgeous. It looks amazing. But once you get in, like you just said, it's like, oh, there's lots of things I can buy.
Yes.
But there's not much I can do. I mean, yes, so Disney has their app, their Play app, and, you can use that to interact with things around the park, including Galaxy's Edge. And I've tried to do it, and honestly, it was just like too much for me to deal with. And I was like,
it's a lot.
Also, it's not fun, because I'm like, oh, I'm on my phone the whole time trying, and and Disney really pushes their Play app when you're there. And I was like, I don't want to be on my phone while I'm experiencing this. And it's like, it really did seem to me to be an entire world created to just sell stuff, which, again, Disney excels at that, because, their Disney stores make them so much money. When they were looking to potentially buy movie theaters, they were going to have Disney stores at the movie theaters, because they make so much of their money from merch, which I think is kind of where we started making the Harry Potter comparisons. Like, Harry Potter does sell stuff too, but let's talk about that. Let's compare the wand to the lightsaber.
Yes. Well, first I want to lay some groundwork. Yeah. So Harry Potter, and the reason why we say that we are getting a completely, or we are getting a different park experience than the one that we are used to, than old Disney, is that the people at Universal who made the Wizarding World of Harry Potter were absolutely genius, because they came up with this idea of having complete and total immersion. Yeah. Where you as a guest, once you step beyond the gates of the Wizarding World, you are in it. You are a student, you are, a teacher, you are whatever you want to be. That's who you are. And everybody working in that land will treat you as if you just belong to the land as well. And they live their lives. They spend their entire shift pretending as if they too are residents of that world.
Yeah, if it's Hogsmeade or Diagon Alley, whatever it is.
Right.
I mean, to the point where you even get like the dancers from Beauxbaton, or however that's pronounced, the all girls school.
Right.
You have them, and then you've got, Ollivanders, and of course, it's.
And so this idea of having a complete immersive experience almost like a LARP, almost like, you know, almost in that vein, where you can not only experience the world and look around and kind of, you know, be in the world, you can also be a part of it. You can join in the fun, and you can have people treat you as if you're just a regular piece of this world. And that was absolutely genius.
And if you get an interactive wand, you can use it to like interact with the display windows. Like, you know, there's different things. They give you maps to show you what you can do. And like for little kids, when I see the little kids running around with their cloaks and their wands and they're interacting with the window, which is free. I mean, yes, you have to buy the wand, 50, 75 bucks, maybe. But that experience is free.
Right. And so basically they built the experience into the land with the interactive wands, with the interactive park employees, the shows that they have there, the rides, and they do it quite seamlessly. Disney saw this, and they basically began shitting themselves because they realized that Universal Studios saw the future. And they did it perfectly. Their execution was pretty much flawless. I mean, when you're opening up a different land or a different park, there's always going to be bugs to be worked through. I remember there being bugs to be worked through with the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, mostly people complaining about the prices of things. And like, I completely agree. It's very expensive. $50
like a butter
to
beer
$75.
is like 10. The butter beers are like, I don't know, $7, $10, something.
And like the school uniforms and all that stuff, very expensive. I mean, you're going to run up, you know, a couple $100 bill if you're going to get all the stuff. However, like the actual sweaters are wool. The cloaks are made out of the robes are very nice.
Really well made.
Well, I think I remember Nobel being the first to make the robes, and I don't know if the Nobel collection still does it or not, but they had the baseline of what people expected as far as a robe replication, and the park took that and was like, we're not going to do anything cheap. We're going to put out the highest quality product that we can. And, you know, they figured people were going to pay the price for it. And they did. And they do. And they continue to do so. Disney saw this and they were like, we did not see this coming. We did not even have this in our little brains. It was never even a thought in our minds to do this. And so that panic led them to all the mistakes that they made with Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Because they really wanted to have their one Wizarding World part of their park, and they went about it all wrong. I think that they saw how much money that the Wizarding World was making and how much money people would drop you know, without,
and they're already talking about expansions. You know, Florida has obviously already expanded their Wizarding World, and you know, they keep talking about doing it here, but unfortunately it's Universal is still a working movie studio, so that you have to negotiate that. But well, they saw how people would drop money at, you know, in the blink of an eye over something in their childhood that they loved. And so Star Wars was obviously going to be the next step for them, for Disney. That was the franchise that they owned, that they could capitalize on people's nostalgia and childhood, which wasn't really represented in the parks yet. I mean, you had Hyperspace Mountain one time during the year where they turned it into a Star Wars ride, but there really was no Star Wars presence besides Hyperspace Mountain. What was that, like 3 months out of the year or something you got that? And that was the only real Star Wars attraction besides all the merch they had for sale.
Yeah. So they did two huge mistakes right off the bat. The first one being that they assumed that they needed to make it a make money first experience. And you can completely see that laid bare with the way that Universal does their wand experience and the way that Disney does their lightsaber experience. The lightsaber experience, you are going to be dropping $100 to $300 on a lightsaber. Yeah. And if you have kids and you have multiple children, you are obviously going to be buying however many
$1,000, and you have to make sure you make reservations in advance because you cannot just walk in. Like Ollivanders, if there's room, you get in that room and you get to be part of the experience, and they do it every like 30 minutes, I think, something like that. But for the lightsabers, for the droids, you better make those reservations 30 to 60 days in advance, because do not show up at the park and think you're going to walk in, because it's not going to happen.
Exactly. So the lightsabers, you're spending $100 to a couple $100 on lightsabers, but you are also, and I remember this from going the first time that I did it. I don't know if it's changed since then, but you are buying this thing sight unseen. They basically give you a sheet of paper and they ask you a few questions about like what sort of things you gravitate towards. So they basically do the Harry Potter house quiz on you, but in a Jedi sort of way.
Yeah. And then find your Kyber crystal is kind of like finding the core of your wand or whatever.
Right. And then you lay down your money. When, you lay down your money, they give you the test, and then you wait in a line to get into the room to have the experience. You don't get to go into the room. Unlike Ollivanders, you don't get to go into the room without paying first to do so. And then you get a lightsaber that is sight unseen.
Yeah.
So it could be something that you hate.
Yeah. And the other thing is like at Universal, like Ollivanders, they hire, again, we're in Hollywood. They hire actors for all of those performers that are in the Wizarding World. Obviously, Galaxy's Edge has that too with their First Order experience. With you do have the stormtroopers and the First Order officer, and Kylo Ren walks around, and but like I see the casting announcements come out all the time, and it's like, so Ollivander is an actual actor. The conductor on the train is an actor, and so it's like the quality of the experience is just so enticing. And I'm not a child, and when I go through the Ollivanders experience, I'm just like, this is so fun. But you don't have that for the lightsaber build. It's like it's you're buying something, right? Kind of an experience, but not, I think, like being not,
the exchange of money in the very beginning. Yeah, that very extremely transactionary sort of deal that you're making in order to get the experience really just puts me off my feed. And I think that it's done the same to a lot of other people. Yeah. Because whereas in Ollivanders, I mean, they do the IKEA thing where they make you walk the whole store until and they release you out into a gift shop,
Right. Which any ride does that. Any ride is going to dump
everybody is conditioned to that. Exactly. Yeah. Everybody's conditioned to that. You get led out into the gift shop. I mean, when you leave any museum in Italy, you're led out of a gift shop. So it's nothing that you're not already, conditioned to if you've ever been to a theme park. Right. However, the lightsaber thing, you're just like, oh, so you just want my money. Right. So that then I can experience this thing. Yeah. It feels almost exploitative of your childhood. I mean, and that's the same thing with a lot of things in Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, it's just buy.
Yeah.
And honestly, the quality
everything has a price tag.
Yeah, everything has a price tag. like we talked about the quality of the robes, which are really nice, and like the scarves and everything that they sell at Universal. The clothing that they have for sale in Galaxy's Edge is just as expensive, if not more so.
Oh yeah.
And the quality is not the same.
It is questionable.
Like Rey's, that the kind of Rey's type outfit that they have for sale is very thin, and the seams don't look really well put together. And but yeah, that was the thing that really bothered me, is I really loved being immersed in this world. I just wish there was more for me to see and do. Like they had actual actors walking around doing things, which, that's actually a good transition into Avengers Campus, which is obviously the latest experience at Disneyland. And seems like they kind of are going in, not the same pitfalls that Galaxy's Edge had. Obviously, it's not as immersive and all-encompassing as Galaxy's Edge, but kind of more to see and do. Yeah.
Before we get to Avengers Campus, I said that like there was two things that Disney did very wrong. The gotcha version of a theme park being the first thing. The second thing was they set it in the absolute worst time period ever.
Oh yeah.
They were banking on their last trilogy as being extremely
better than it was,
lucrative, the be all end all, everybody was going to like it. And so all of the characters that you get in Galaxy's Edge and the timeline that it's set in is the First Order
episode
timeline.
Yep. You got Kylo, you got Rey, you got
and people wanted Luke and Han and Leia and Chewie, and you don't. And the only one of those that you get is Chewie,
right?
And everybody else, there is not even a breath or a whiff of that original Star Wars around. And
I don't know if that was a licensing thing, if that was were they just that the trilogy would be good, or
that's the thing, is that they really wanted to sell their newest trilogy. They were banking on the fact that, and this is just it's a no-brainer. How do you get people's money? You brainwash the kids in order to have their parents spend money on the kids.
Right.
At a theme park, that's a no-brainer. However, they completely shot themselves in the foot, because their main body of fans that they have now are adults.
Yeah.
They're
adults. You can afford to go to Disney now.
And those same adults, what they're showing their kids is the original trilogy. If the adults don't like the new trilogy, they're only going to introduce their children to the old trilogy.
Right.
And everything, things that they like, and they're like, well, this is my childhood and this is the Star Wars that I know, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. But yeah, those were the two things that they
I definitely agree with that.
Totally so wrong. And that place, if anybody was following up on the news cycle with that place, it was a ghost town. It opened up. It was busy for about a month and a half, and then it turned into an absolute ghost town.
Yeah.
To say that it was a failure, to say that it was absolutely not at all what Iger or anybody was expecting, and it underperformed profoundly. I don't think that is much of a stretch to say that at all.
Yeah, no. And the thing is they could learn from this and revamp it. Like, okay, Black Spire, I'm sure in the Star Wars lore has been around for who knows how long. All you got to do is switch out some of the characters, keep the same. I mean, you already got the Millennium Falcon. Just instead of Finn piloting it, let's get Han. Honestly, those actors are not able to record the videos that are used in the theme parks like the current actors are, because they're the wrong age if we're going back to old school Star Wars time. But it's like Disney obviously uses AI and CGI and animatronics all the time. So it's doable.
Sorry.
Yeah. But, or just give us some more shows, which is something that Avengers Campus gives us.
Yeah.
It is small, well, also, and if we're comparing restaurants, you can't get into the cantina, but you can get into Hank Pam if you just show up.
Yeah. So Avengers Campus, it was Disney's Wizarding World Take Two.
Half the size. Well, maybe even less than half the size.
I mean, so the difference between Avengers Campus and Star Wars, Galaxy's Edge, and the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, what they were able to get right from the Wizarding World of Harry Potter was the immersion.
Yeah.
And the fact that there are a ton of free things to do. There's not a lot of rides there. I mean, you have Guardians of the Galaxy, which been amazing. Open.
And that was there before Avengers Campus.
It's fantastic, but it was there before the opening of Avengers Campus. And so you have Guardians, and then you have Web Slingers, which is the Spider-Man ride.
Which you need to get in the virtual queue to get on that ride still. I've heard that they're accepting standbys now, but for the most part, you got to log on at 7 a.m. and noon to get in the virtual queue, and you got to pick either Galaxy's Edge or, Rise of the Resistance or Web Slinger.
Right. I mean, and that alone, is such a hassle, where...
When I was literally in my car driving to Disney at 7 a.m, and I was trying to get in the queue, and I was like, no, it didn't happen. At noon I was able to, but even though you're not able to get into a ride, I walked into the park and the first thing I see is the Dora Milaje show, which I was just this is fantastic.
Yeah. So they have the Dora show. They have a show for Black Widow. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to say it's for Black Widow. I mean, there's other people in there, but it's Black Widow versus Taskmaster. And then there are a few other heroes that show up, like Black Panther. You can watch Black Panther scale a whole entire wall in that show, which is pretty cool. And they have things like this. They have interactive things like this. Oh, they have the Doctor Strange show as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. At the Sanctum Sanctorum, which is really cool. Lots of cool special effects. I believe Thor makes a cameo there.
I think because I know Cap makes a cameo, I think, with the Black Widow.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
And then you also you have Loki showing up. They had a really cool thing happening when Loki, the TV show, was going around, where Loki in the park would come wearing the TVA uniform. He'd come in as President Loki, and then you'd see all sorts of different variants of Loki showing up as the episodes were released. So as far as being interactive and playing with the universe and the world that these superheroes exist in, Avengers Campus did a very good job. That being said, it is tinier than a New York apartment.
I literally walked in and
Peter Parker's freaking New York apartment.
Yeah, I walked in and was like, oh, is this it?
Yeah, it is very small. It is done very well.
The shawarma truck is amazing, I will say.
I actually had the giant pretzel.
The pretzel.
I
know because the falafel at the shawarma truck is vegan, so I knew I could eat that, and I knew I could eat the pretzel. But the good thing about that is, like you just said, they had Loki show up in the Time Bureau uniform. With Avengers Campus, they have the flexibility to just keep adding and changing up their shows and their characters as the next new Marvel show comes out. I'm sure once we get Miss Marvel, we're going to have Kamala Khan show up. We're going to have She-Hulk show up. Whereas Galaxy's Edge,
I mean, we already had
Star Wars content on Disney Plus. None of that is represented in Galaxy's Edge. We do not have the Mandalorian. They're selling a shit ton. Well,
that's because they stuck the whole thing in a time period.
Right.
So the whole thing is basically stuck in this sort of time warp where they can't have the Mandalorian. They can't have anything from the Clone Wars. They can't have anything from the Bad Batch because it's not the time period in which they set the stupid land in. They can only do anything from, you know, the last trilogy on up.
Yeah.
So,
which is so depressing because it's like, we're getting the Book of Boba Fett and we're going to get the Ahsoka series. Unfortunately, we're no longer getting Patty Jenkins' Rebel Alliance series, which they just made the announcements on that last week, which I'm very depressed about. But it's like all these, and that's what kids are watching now. That's what adults are watching now. Yeah. Disney Plus, like they understand Disney Plus. Like Disney fucking nailed it with Disney Plus. But it's like, if you are trying to commodify off of it, you're able to do that with Avengers Campus, but you're not able to maximize all of the great content you're putting out and find a way to integrate it into your theme park. Because like you just said, they set it in this very specific time bubble that they can't get out of.
The Disney Plus content that they have for Marvel, they are taking advantage of. They have Loki for Halloween. They had Agatha for Halloween. Hell, they even had Zombie Captain America for the last week of the Halloween parties. And they are, you know, there are announcements that they are going to get, you know, Falcon in as well.
Right.
And, you know, Falcon as the new Captain America. I don't remember when they said they were going to get him, but they said they're going to get him. And then you already have Shang-Chi, you know, running around the park with, I forget what his name is, but he has the kabuki mask on.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But you have, you know, you have that character unit or whatever they call them, you know, running around the park, along with, you know, the Dora and the Black Panther unit and, you know, the Thor and Doctor Strange unit, you know, and there's just a whole bunch of things that even if you don't go on a ride there, even if you don't, you know, go to Pym's test kitchen,
you can just sit.
You can just sit and you can in watch
the Sanctorum little area, the little Zen garden they have there. It's like
right. You can just sit and watch all the shows that they have going on, which they were in. And also like, you know, like Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, like Universal Studios, they do have all of the employees dressed appropriately in either Sanctum Sanctorum costumes or like Avengers,
like Shield. They have some Shield people.
Yeah, some Shield Avengers, Shield agent costumes.
Right.
And then for web slingers, I know they have their own like WEB costumes that they wear for that. And it's all very seamless, very nicely integrated. I know a lot of the park employees really like working that area just because they do get the freedom to kind of play and be a character and, you know, interact with, you know, the superheroes and just pretend like it's, you know, just another day with the Avengers.
Yeah.
And that's what you get to do as a guest, is just pretend that it's another day walking around in the world where there are superheroes.
Yeah.
I mean, because the Marvel universe takes place in our world. It's not like DC where, you know, it's a completely different version of the US.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like, yes, we have the multiverses and all of that, but it all comes back to like pretty much everything's taking place in New York and now.
Right. That being said, web slingers, you still like, if you still want to do the full interaction, you have to buy something from the store, like the web slinger gauntlets.
Yeah.
The little thing from the store in order to fully sync up and have a complete immersive experience with web slingers, the ride, which I think that sort of got you pay to play concept is ridiculous. If you're already paying like 20 something dollars for parking, and
Now
then
it's 30.
it's 30. Oh,
yeah,
Jesus.
because all of the rates went up last week. So parking is now 30. They've upped all the ticket prices. They've upped their annual subscriber prices. They've taken away some of their annual subscriber packages, and they've taken away the free parking for some of the tiers. So Disney is just, and then you've got the Genie, you know, you have to pay for what used to be the fast track. And it's like, Disney is just
right.
Price gouging.
Yeah.
Which I know Universal was making fun of that.
There's a lot. Okay.
Like a social media war going on for a little while where Universal was like, we're so much cheaper than Disney.
There's a lot of things that has been going on in Disney.
Yeah.
Since the pandemic.
Right. And obviously needing to make up money from lost times, but it gets to a point where it's like, well, it's not fun when you're kind of thinking of all the money you're like Universal tickets are not that expensive. Season passes at Universal, not that expensive. And you don't have to park at the park if you don't want to. Like there is a free shuttle to take you up to the park if you can find street parking down on Cahuenga, or, you know, or not off of Cahuenga, but yeah, like I never park in the park. I always park on street.
The thing is that like Disney is the most powerful company in the entertainment industry.
Yep.
Disney, like by far outperforms most every aspect of business that they are in, that they dabble in. So my sympathy runs very thin.
Well, and you know what?
Very thin when it comes
Star Wars
to
hotel. Like the ticket price on that is just exorbitant, and they sold out. So it's like Disney has learned, and that's kind of the sad thing. Disney has learned that no matter what they charge, people will pay.
People will pay.
Now you're getting a class divide because it's like those of us who lived in California, you know, it's like who maybe were annual pass holders. It's like it paid off if you went once a month, and it's like you'd see so many people in the park with like their families and their kids, and it's like, you know, these people are not, you know, the wealthy 1%. But now we're getting to a point where it's like, dude, you're going to price out an entire percentage of the population.
I mean, they already have.
Yeah.
But just the level to which they're outpricing certain like household incomes just increases every single year. But then you have people who are struggling, who, you know, going to Disney is the one thing that they want to do or want to be able to do for their family. And that is just, it's either not in the cards or they overspend or they have to overstretch themselves. And, you know, you can say that, you know, going to a theme park is a privilege, yada, yada, yada. But you can also make the same argument of, you know, the Kardashians celebrating, you know, Kim celebrating her birthday on a private island, bringing like 30 of her closest friends or whatever the it was, is also like a privilege. You can use it's a slippery slope argument. Like you cannot come at me with this idea where we all know that Disney is supposed to be a family park. Disney was supposed to be the affordable vacation for lower to middle income families that they could, you know, even if they can't go to Hawaii or Thailand or, you know, somewhere abroad, they can afford to go to Disney. And that's no longer a thing anymore. And like I said, my sympathy runs dry the minute that you start looking at the numbers of the people that they have fired, when you start to look at the number of people that they have in their employ right now who are homeless and living out of their cars.
Right. And this
I cannot
that it is a privilege. It's a privilege to work for us.
Right. Yeah. Where they have that mindset of you can work somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because
like,
for us,
it's an
honor.
Tried to unionize. It didn't work. Other groups have tried to unionize. They all got fired.
There there has been a lot of controversy over being able to unionize at Disney for the employees. Currently, they have AGVA there, which is a guild. It's not a union.
Right. And that's just for the actor performers.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, there are unions people. There are people who are under unions that do work at Disney, but it's not everybody.
Right.
And you have to wonder, especially with AGVA, who is strictly a theme park,
right,
guild,
right, yeah.
What deals are they cutting with the actual theme parks in order to make sure that things are copacetic between the guild and the theme parks? I mean, that is all just speculation. I mean, there's nothing to say that there is anything fishy going on, but you know, like, you have to have not think.
We know that our union has been influenced by the sheer power and money behind producers.
Right.
The AMPTP, if anyone doesn't know who that is, it's basically all the producers in the film and television industry. And that's who we have to negotiate our contracts with. And they have all the power and the money. And so it's basically SAG-AFTRA just being like, okay, we'll compromise on this, and this. And the producers are the ones who benefit. Where I feel like at a theme park, it's probably something very similar.
And I'm not saying to live your life with a cynical outlook. However, don't be stupid.
Right.
Don't.
And accordingly, watch your budget. Because, like, we love theme parks. I love theme parks, but I also like to not go broke.
Yeah. I mean, and there's a lot of things, arguably there are a lot of experiences and things that guests of these theme parks, wouldn't have otherwise. Some of these things are precious memories to people. And that is important.
Yeah.
That is something. However, unfortunately, nowadays it comes at the expense of the people giving you those memories. And I forgot who it was, but there was a creator that just recently made a video about Disney and nostalgia. And they were talking about how that they really enjoyed their trip to Disney as a child, but they'll never be able to go back.
Yeah.
Knowing what they know now about the theme parks specifically and how they're run and how the employees are treated.
Yeah.
And and you can really feel for that person, because they're like, even though I really want to relive that moment of my childhood, one of the happiest memories that I've ever had, I know that I can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, on
another note, we took
all of your dreams.
We have turned down a dark path. However,
are now going to cry because they're never going to Disneyland.
And that's the thing. It's like moderation, like, you deal with these things in moderation. You have to, I think that it is enough to be aware and not just blindly stumble into things.
Yeah.
Without knowing the effects and the consequences that it has on other people.
Yeah.
There are very few ways to consume ethically under capitalism, if any ways to do so. But being knowledgeable, like, if you're going to the park, do not be that person. Do not be the I want to see your manager person. Do not be the person to yell at a park employee for something that is completely out of their control.
Right.
Do not be an asshole to the people just trying to either get through their day.
Right.
But not only that, but get through their day and trying to give you the best experience possible, because that's what they're trained to do.
Right.
And to some people, that's what they love doing, so don't just
Please, because most of them are making
please,
wage.
Please don't be that person.
Please don't. But you know what? I guess enjoy or don't.
Yeah.
Or, let us know your thoughts about Galaxy's Edge, Avengers Campus.
Yeah. Are we wrong about like immersion being the new experience for theme parks? Because like, honestly, I don't see it going any other way. I mean, I think this is the way of evolution for theme parks, is that deep immersive experience.
Right.
And we saw the way that Disney reacted to Universal, and they had a flop their first time. It's not to say that Galaxy's Edge can't be better, that they can't get their feet back under them. And it's not to say that it isn't a beautiful park, because it is. It's gorgeous.
Absolutely. The Imagineers just did a fantastic job.
It's a beautiful park with nothing to do in it.
Yeah, exactly.
And Avengers Campus is a beautiful park with a lot to do in it. It's just absolutely postage stamp tiny.
Exactly.
But apparently they're planning on expanding it. I don't know how, because there's no land to do so. There's nowhere to go unless they start buying up land, around the park, or buying up hotels and then just leveling them to the ground and building up another park. I don't know what they're doing, but apparently they have plans to expand Avengers Campus, which it needs it. I mean, they've done a really good job with what they could, and now that they know that they can actually give you the Harry Potter Wizarding World-esque experience, they can unfurl their wings and make more money.
Make more money.
Take my paycheck.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, we hope you enjoyed this deep analysis into the theme park experience and the ethics of the capitalistic society on,
on theme parks, and how we try and get, and how we try and get the best experience, and how, the workers try and give you the best experience as possible. But, there are roadblocks. But yes, if you like this video, my cat just kicked my camera out of focus. Oh, no. So that's great. If you liked this video, please give us a thumbs up. If our content is your thing, we would love you to subscribe and then click that bell so that you get notifications every time we upload. We upload every Friday at noon Pacific time, and we would love to see you again. Thank you so much for being here to begin with. And it's not going to get back in focus. It's just going to stay this way.
You look great.
It's better this way. The older you get,
it is.
The better the blurry.
It's a filter. It's the new Zoom filter. All right, guys. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.